Some of you might have heard from the candidate for Congress after she won the primary in Boston. Anaya Presley said, "The people closest to the pain should be closest to the power." That's not how we usually look at equality. Equality can be symbolized, others have symbolized it as different sized boxes for people to stand on who have different inequalities, so that they can all look over the fence at the same height. Equity is removing the fence. That's not my thoughts, but it's perfect for today. Today is a first for me. You know, I've been active in politics most of my life, and in the latter part of my life, I've been active in providing hope for those of us with cognitive changes. For the first time, I have both of those, the literature and the information about both of those movements on one table. Because frankly, every one of us as we age has some cognitive changes, and we need to honor each other's, and if we ignore, isolate, refuse to listen to, take the time to listen for the words to come out for those who are having a harder time getting their words out, among any number of other changes, if we isolate each other from each other, we're not going to be closer to the power. To remind them that yes, we can't all function under that same cue of 3 minutes and you're cut off. You know, when I'm rushed to hurry, and I am going to keep track of the clock back there, and somebody else is going to help me with, that's an accommodation I need. At a minute before I have to end, you have to say something. But the faster I'm pushed to talk, the slower I become. That is true with packing to go away for a trip. That's true with getting ready for getting out of the house, whatever. Those kinds of things are new to me. And I don't accommodate them very much. I'm not very good at forcing myself that extra half hour to get ready, whatever. So I can tend to be late and other things, and I'm fine with you reminding me. What I don't want is for you to, who's someone I haven't seen for a long time, to come up to me and say, "Do you remember me? Do you remember my name?" The last thing I'm going to be able to do is spit out that name. But I'll probably be able to tell you when the last time I saw you, how many children you have, what we connected on. But to ask me if I can say your name, that is a put down to me. Please stop doing that to people. And in fact, I appreciate it when you come up to me and say, "I am so glad to see you, Mary Kay. I just love, the flowers that you have on your house. I was your next door neighbor. I'm Bill, your next door neighbor." You can say your name to me. That doesn't embarrass me. I feel much better than my trying to hide, and I've learned to say, your name, Kay, I can't see. Just remind me your name. I know, we've got to be able, that's ways to friend me and to keep connected. The worst risks for people with cognitive changes, and as I say, we all have some as we age, is feeling isolated, feeling unneeded, feeling that we're a burden only, and I want to be reminded of the things I can do, not the things I can't do. And I want to be appreciated and be understood that I'm understanding a lot more of what's going on, and I might have perceptions that you might benefit by, but I might not be able to communicate them as fast as I could years ago. The other thing I can't do, and this we have in most every aging group, I hate to say this, but we are kind of in a group here that does qualify as having some aging people. Well, we're all aging every day, right? Okay. I am glad we have these round tables. So often we're in these long tables, and there's multiple conversations going on in one. And I used to be able to, in a political event, go up to people and just hear what one person is saying and block out all the back sounds and just be able to concentrate on the one voice that I really want to connect with. I can't do that anymore. I was talking to my regular physician about it. She said, well, none of us can as we age. And so the worst thing is multiple conversations, and then I can't hear any of them. And I certainly can't engage in one. So we could set structures, but the hard thing is that as we age, many of us also don't have such good hearing. And ones without the good hearing don't also realize that they talk louder than they think they are. So they're kind of whispering to thinking they're whispering to each other in the back room. I've already seen it happen here today. And the rest of us can't hear the speaker. I'm just little things like that. This I'll go more into, but these are just some of the many tips that we need to learn. And they're not, they should become essential to a political movement because we want to have equity and involve everyone, and there is wisdom in the group. Then I just want to say that who's affected most? Who's closest to the pain, both in our political movements and in our health issues regarding cognition? Women, more than men. Not only are we more often the I'd say care partners, not caregivers. Not only are we often the professional helpers in helping professions, but we also have a disproportionate share of dementia, and it's not just related to the fact we live longer. Also, people of color, Latinos the most, and it might be from generations ago of exposure to chemicals, working in the fields. It could be from current and exposure that people on farms have, but also people living on the wrong side of the tracks. And that's, environmental racism affects all of us, or affects people disproportionately. One thing that I want you to know, because the C word of cognition is, or changing in cognition, has more of a opposite. There is more stigma. Thank you. Find the word. More stigma associated with Alzheimer's or any number of ways to talk about changes in cognition than there is actually with HIV/AIDS. Many people would say they'd rather be dead than have cognitive changes. That total lack of understanding and lack of hope 40 is never mentioned. Our news media does not say 40% of those with mild cognitive impairment do not progress beyond mild cognitive impairment. You only hear about slogans like, there's never been a survivor of Alzheimer's disease, or you hear things that are just totally negative. I want to read, I think the hopeful thing to me is that in northern Wisconsin, where we are and north, we saw the worst of the racism against Native people, especially during the spearfishing era. And some of us remember seeing signs like, killing Indians, save a fish. Zoltan Grossman, whose book was mentioned earlier, actually, as a academician, explains that in those very areas where there was the most tension between the white landowners and the native nations, back then, those are now the areas where there are the strongest alliances between the native people and the landowners, the white landowners. And part of it had two things happen. People began to socialize with each other and understand each other. And they did that because they understood that the treaty rights of the native people impacted them and saved the land for all the landowners in the area. If that kind of change can happen, then anything can happen to connect people despite our fears and misconceptions of each other. I'm going to close with a poem I wrote some years ago. It's very connected to the cognitive issues, but it's transferable to other ways we have been separating ourselves. We see many others like us. Others who are also feeling overloaded and skipping favorite activities, becoming more clumsy, knocking into things, being slower at everything, feeling the weight of fatigue, distracted by commotion, easily overwhelmed, losing our train of thought, not finding our words, losing track of time, losing keys, cell phone and calendar, arriving late or not at all, not sleeping so well, not letting go of our troubles, having to take careful notes but misplacing the notes. Offended by teasing, hearing it as criticism, feeling attacked by questions, feeling queasy about many cleaners, getting headaches from some foods, getting dizzy from chlorine water, feeling weak from polluted air and water, being afraid in once familiar places. Sometimes feeling on, but unpredictably we feel in a daze. We feel exhausted by writing this much. We take notice of these little changes, so subtle but so real. We are workers who were let go, or fired, or demoted, or we retired early. We couldn't take it anymore. Our mothers died of something called Alzheimer's. So did some aunts. Besides acting confused, we found them cranky, distracted. We thought they didn't like us anymore. We feared we'd be like that too. But now there's hope. We can speak and listen to one another. We share ways we learn to live with changes. We are test pilots for remedies and research. We reveal what works well for us. The more we listen, the more we learn about ourselves. We discover new pathways and wise old trails. Our mothers still inspire us. Our daughters start to hear our stories. Our neighbors take notice. The earth applauds our wisdom for seeing links to environment.
The trees think out with us. We marked our favorite trails, the pathways that open new directions for us. Together we find our words, our voices. We are the ones who can say what it's like. We can tell what helps, what hurts, and what we want. We can mark paths we've explored, lanes to follow, and hazards to avoid. If someday we do become mute, the stones will still stand in for us, marking the healing places for our children's children. Our mothers have been waiting for us. Our aunts have been hoping for us.